Welcome to the Launch Author Reveal, a talk show where we go between the pages of the book, behind the words, and right into the heart of the author who penned them for the intimate reveal of the book's backstory. Book lovers get great reads and giveaways, and authors get revealed during Q&A. Now, here's the Launch Author Reveal host, Michelle Chudy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Launch Author Reveal. This is Michelle Chudy. I just want to say hello and welcome to this amazing reveal with author Cynthia Brewer. So glad to have you on today. And if you're not familiar with the show, this is where we go behind the pages and we actually go to the backstory, into the heart of the author on the books that they have written. So today we're going to be talking to Cynthia Brewer, and she has written The Jewels in My Crown, and it is just a tremendous book, and I'm really, really excited to bring this book to you because, one, it's riveting. But as you're getting settled in, and if you're watching on Facebook, I want you to go ahead and, one, let me know that you're here. So leave me comments. You know, if you're actually on webinar, go ahead and just sign in as far as leave me a note in the Q&A. Leave me a note in the chat. All you have to do is just, put your name, your location, and let me know you're here. We're doing a book giveaway today, so excited for that too. But if you're watching via Facebook, y'all just leave a note in the comments that you're on, so I actually know that you're watching as well. And then, of course, if you want to be into the drawing, I want you to come in and just leave your email. So if you're not comfortable leaving your email in the comments, I want you to just go ahead and message the page. So I just want to make sure that you're in for the drawing. So, hey, Judy, I see you're signing in from Virginia. Y'all just go ahead and continue to leave me notes as we get settled in here. I want to also ask, if you were on Facebook, go ahead and share this with your friends, because we want to get the word out that these reveals are amazing. And not only that you get free books. So this is like sharing the joy of reading, and just, want to get the word out about the Launch Author Reveal. So let me take you in to meet this amazing author that's on today. So let me tell you a little bit about Miss Cynthia Brewer. She is someone who pours her heart out onto paper. I have read her book, and I just was overwhelmed by how transparent she actually is. She is one who lives her life where she takes everything to heart and she turns it out into a teaching lesson. So she's a teacher, just, no matter how you look at it, as far as, sharing her insights and just, the wonderful gift of writing, she shares that as well. She's also an accomplished creative. She's an artist. So very, very talented woman. So, when she wrote this book, she took all of her personal experiences and applied them into this book. And through the years, she's learned how to face life's storms and challenges. She struggled with low self-esteem, and then eventually learned, who she is in Christ. So she's a beautiful bride. She realized that on her journey. So she has a great love for the Word of God and loves to teach. So she's taught and encouraged many women, and has spoken to ladies or at ladies events, and has the heart to see women transformed and changed through His Word. And she also goes with her husband, Carl, and has taught at numerous couples events, and, there's classes to bring that fresh perspective through the Word. So that being said, I want to introduce you to this amazing woman. And as you are listening to her story about how this book came to be, I want you guys to think of some things that if you want to ask her about it, maybe things on your journey. I want to talk to you about how she has poured her life into this book, The Jewels in My Crown, and how it's going to transform your life. So let me bring Miss Cynthia back in here and ask her to join me. So you can introduce this, or I can introduce you to this amazing woman. And of course, if you're watching via webinar, y'all, if you have questions and want to ask, I ask that you set your settings to panelists and all attendees. That way everyone can see the question. So welcome, Miss Cynthia Brewer. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you letting me come on and talk about my book. And hey, everybody, looking forward to talking with you about my book.
Well, I'm excited to have you on here. Cynthia and I have more than just a host-author relationship. She's become is a dear friend of mine and has been a recent friendship. And I just thank the Lord for the blessing of her. So part of that friendship has introduced me to this amazing, beautiful book, The Jewels in My Crown. This cover is stunning, by the way. So I said the bio, but it doesn't do you justice, as we all know. Tell me a little bit more about Miss Cynthia Brewer that wasn't mentioned in the bio.
Oh boy. For me, just being in love with the Lord is a journey in itself, and how he just continually speaks to me through his word, through people, through things I see in the natural, and there's always life lessons to be learned, and I'm always open to learning and growing and maturing in him.
That's fantastic. So one of the things that Cynthia and I have actually discovered is that we are tea drinkers, and not just tea drinkers, we are tea lovers. Yes. And it's funny how we're so much alike. I mean, literally, it's like if I say that I like something, it's normally going to be echoed. Hey, Susan, I see you're on. And, oh, sorry, I have my alarm to make sure that I turn the broadcast on. So you guys are in on my little cheats here, as I have like bells and whistles that go off like Pavlov's dog. So, y'all, if you're on Facebook watching, please share this launch reveal, because I want the word to get out, one, about the launch author reveal, but also to hear Cynthia's story, because again, she's amazing, and I want everyone else to know how amazing she is, and I want them to hear this backstory because it is transformational. And so Susan says, hello, authors, excited to hear from Cynthia, and I know we all are. So I have chatted up this book, Cynthia, about the jewels in my crown. I'm looking down because I'm just like in love with this cover. I'm going to do my best to give a summary, and I want you to fill in the gaps for me, please.
All right. Because
what I expected it to be was not what I read. And the jewels in my crown, obviously, you can just infer that it's about royalty. It's about, something that's personal. But she takes it deeper than that. And I looked at this when I picked up the pages. There's an allegory in here. So there's an allegorical approach.
Yes.
But there's a lot of teaching. But in between the allegory and the teaching aspect, there's life. So tell me why you chose to write the jewels in my crown the way that you did.
I just felt like, as much as I like to teach, I think that when you add in an allegory to it, it helps tie and bring everything in to what I've been trying to convey. And, the allegory is so much like real life, and it's, I think, a beautiful allegory of a bride preparing for her wedding day, and being married to JC, which is allegorically, of course, Jesus Christ. And it just seemed to seamlessly tie everything together, and through my teaching, through the experiences, and it just, I think, wrapped it up in a nice little bow.
Yeah. So, I think it did too. And so let's talk a little bit about how you actually brought this book into play, because the way that it's written, it's talking about a person in their pursuit of life and how they've lived life and how it's not necessarily been pleasant, but then also coming into relationship with their identity, because it's more than, and not that there could be more, but there's more than just relationship and salvation and finding the relationship with Jesus. I don't want to call it evolution, but there is an evolution into an identity in who you are and who you've made to be. Is that correct?
Yes. And I think that, you're never going to be who God intended you to be until you got to put God first. And then as you put God first, then he starts to fill in the blanks and show you what your identity is. And so, you cannot get your identity until you seek him first. And that's what I had to do firstly, is to go to him. And then he began to pour in me when I started seeking him and asking him, why do I feel this way? And, as I went through all these low self-esteem issues, and I was determined that I was going to get the correct identity and find out who I was in Christ. And that's so important for everyone.
And I agree. And one of the things that I love about how you wrote this is that you're talking about it from someone who's lived a life that's not necessarily stellar, and they come into a place of knowing who they are, and it's a journey. So I want to give a shout out. I see Larry coming on here via webinar. He says, good morning. He says, even though I'm a man, I'm still excited about what God is and can do in all of our lives. And what, Larry, I agree. And the one thing that I said on one of my Facebook posts earlier, and just hi for everyone that's watching via Facebook. So if you're joining in, I see Kim's on watching via Facebook, and go ahead and share, y'all. If you're watching via Facebook, share this, because this is a powerful reveal. It's one that's not just powerful because of the essence of it. It's one that's transformational for you to know who you are and to be established in your identity. So, going back to Larry saying that he's excited about this, even though he's a man, this book cover, even though this is a woman on here and being the bride of Christ, and I know this is a mind shift, and I've thought about this from a guy's perspective, to be called the bride of Christ, that's probably like really hard to embrace. But you have to see yourself in that perspective to understand who you truly are. And I appreciate you, Larry, saying that you see yourself, and this is, important. So I agree. So Cynthia, as you are walking people through the process, and, you're talking about, knowing who you are and getting ready as the bride of Christ, this is something that's really identity based, but there is so much of you in here in your story. Why did you tell it the way that you did? What were you trying to accomplish with this book?
I know that once you get your identity established, the word continuously tells us that we're to work out our salvation. And so I began studying that. And as I pursued that, I began to understand that, God wants a bride that is without spot or blemish, but he also wants a bride that's mature. And in order to be mature, we need to get past these areas in our life that hold us back and hold us down. We can't be effective for God if we've got all this junk and problems. We got to work through it and let him do a work in us so we can do a work for him.
Right. So if someone's watching this, and again, if you're watching via Facebook, this is the launch author reveal. We're doing a backstory with Cynthia Brewer on her book, The Jewels of My Crown. Leave your information in as far as like your name and your email. She's giving away free books today, which is an amazing book. I just finished it last night. I took my time reading it, and then I had to speed read via audio just to make sure I had everything taken in. But she's giving copies away. So leave your email and name in the comments. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can always message the page and put it in there. That way it's not public. So we'll get that out of there and put you into the drawing for that. So if someone didn't know who the bride of Christ was, how would you explain that to someone that doesn't know what that means?
Well, the church is the bride of Christ. And the Bible tells us that we need to be ready for Christ's return. But along with that comes the preparation. If you think in the natural, a bride preparing for her wedding day, there's a lot of things that she needs to do to get ready. There's the picking out of the dress and all that, but that's not what I'm conveying in there, even though in my allegory a little bit is in there about that. But it's just about preparing yourself and getting ready for his return, and going out and being, as I said in there, as a queen getting ready to marry a king, we need to learn what it's like to be a queen, to be an ambassador for him. All these lessons that I have throughout the book just beautifully tie into get the bride of Christ getting ready to marry the king. And so it all just ties together seamlessly.
That's fantastic. So when you were writing about that, how long did it take you to actually see yourself as the bride?
Um, Probably a good year, I think, just from studying the word and, you know, confessing that I am his bride, I'm his queen, I am who he says I am, just like in the song that's out there now, you know. And it took a while, but you know, the word continually confirmed. The word just, you know, once I got that in me, it, you know, it grew and it blossomed, and now I'm secure in who I am in Christ, and I think that's a good place to be.
That's fantastic too. You know, that's not always been your case though. One of
No.
the things that Cynthia writes about in her book is that she has had a lot of trials and like not just trials, but some tribulation when you talk about like some hard times, you know, not to do like churchy words with that, but
Right.
um, there's some things that you've lived through that were not so pleasant, where it's really easy to not be able to see yourself as a bride or someone that's worthy and, you know, able to make yourself ready. So tell me a little bit about, you know, what you had to walk through in order to get to the place of being able to write this book.
Well, I suffered tremendously from low self-esteem. I had, you know, continuously would look in the mirror and just see fat, ugly, stupid. And that's how I felt I was all through my childhood, through my adult life. And, you know, one day I just literally had this massive breakdown in my adult life, and it happened to be at church. But, um, and I couldn't figure out where this was coming from. Why, you know, because I had those feelings as a child. And then as I got older and got married, some of those aspects had kind of been stuffed down, regressed. And all of a sudden, this just came out of nowhere and it floored me. And out of that, I prayed to God and I said, I don't know what's going on, you know, but I don't ever want to feel like this again. And out of that, I just was praying and I proclaimed, I said, God, I got to get past this and I need this to be out of my life. I need to feel secure and I need to know who I am in Christ. And through my prayers, I just proclaimed really loud. It just came out of nowhere. And I said, I want this to be a jewel in my crown that I've gotten through and past this. And that just kind of birthed, you know, my book. Between that and what my daughter had done years prior to that about a crown. And I remembered and found it shortly after I had proclaimed that. My daughter, when she was 4 or 5, she made a crown for me and she had colored jewels on it and put it on my head. And she said, Mommy, you're a queen. And of course, I laughed it off and thought it was a little game. And so she made me wear the crown all day long. Every time I tried to take it off, no, queens must wear their crowns. So we played that game and it went on for a week. Every time that I went to leave the house, she'd say, Mommy, the queen has to wear her crown when she goes out. It was like, oh, okay. So I'd put the crown on. As soon as I get in the car, of course, I would take it off. And so then when I got home, of course, I had to put it back on because I know I'd get in trouble. But that went on for about a week. And I just kind of sloughed it off as a game. And God brought that back to me after my little breakdown episode. I literally found the crown that she had made me. And I got it out and I put it on my head and I looked in the mirror and God just said, this is who I want you to see yourself as. You are a queen. And I want you to see yourself as no other way. And so that, of course, broke me down. And I started studying the word and about a crown and royalty. And out from that came this book. And it's been a life-changing thing for me as I went through it. It took me 5 years to write it, but it was
Wow.
something that I needed to do. It was a process that I walked through.
Yeah, that's amazing that you say that it was a 5-year journey. The number of grace, yet again. Cynthia's our 5th author, and coming out on the Launch Author Reveal. And again, if you're watching on Facebook, please share this, get the word out about this amazing new show, because one, we're bringing you amazing authors. You get to also hear their backstory and the heart of why they wrote their book. And then you get access to free books. So if you're watching via Facebook, please share. And then also, I see Nicole's on. Hey, Nicole, glad you're watching. So Nicole's on here, and also Michelle Jones. Love to see that you guys are on here. And then also, Nancy Kress is signing in on the webinar and says hello from Colorado. So love the fact that we are out and about and making our way across America. And so you guys, let your friends know about this, that Cynthia's giving away free books. All you have to do is leave your name and email in on Facebook, as far as so Cynthia can get back with you and actually get the book to you. But also, if you don't feel comfortable leaving that in the comments, you can message the page, and we'll get the information to Cynthia for the drawing. So 5 years, Cynthia, that's a journey. One of the things you mentioned is that you had a meltdown or breakdown at church. Now, how recent was that? Was that right before you wrote the book, or when was that?
That was before I started the book. So it was 8-9 years ago.
Okay. So when you read this book, you're going to find that she calls that like her big breakdown. And if you look at it in comparison to some of the other things that she had, it's amazing to me that you would actually call that your big breakdown, because that tells me that you have, one, grown through, because you talk about in your book how you overcame and worked through sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How you went through the process of seeing yourself in a way, and just, tremendous wounding throughout your life, where it resulted in stones. We're going to talk about the stones in just a second, as far as the stones in your crown, but how these things actually were adding to what the Lord was working in you, and how they were redeemed. But you also shared that you had a really crushing time about midway through the book, where you try to take your own life.
Yes. That was actually before, that was when Carl and I were having some trouble in our marriage, and my self-esteem at that point was not so good. And I just got to the point where I felt so beaten down. I believed the lie of the enemy, and the enemy kept telling me, you're no good. This marriage is going to fail. And at the time, my husband, he loved me, but he also teased me a lot. And for me to be teased, it's difficult. I don't like to be teased. Especially because in my mind, I would just turn it around, and it would be more mean to me, and it would affect me. So over the years, with him teasing, because that's what his family did, they teased, and he would say things that were kind of a put down, and that just kept, getting into my spirit, and I began to believe all those things. They just kept sinking down, and it was just a weight that I couldn't handle anymore. I just combined with that low self-esteem that I had, and it was so bad one day that I just felt so depressed, and I felt literally like I was a walking dead person. There was no love for my husband at that point. I just thought God wasn't there. Nobody cared about me. And why should I even, breathe the air that I breathed? And so I took myself, and I'm from California, and it was a hot day in the 90s. And I said, well, I'm just going to end it all. And I drove my car to a remote place, and I sat in the car, and I said, well, I'm too chicken to get a gun or, that kind of stuff, or take pills. So I said, I'm just going to sit here and bake to death.
Oh,
that
wow.
was my reasoning. And, I sat there for the longest time, and, kept thinking, okay, this is it. And, when you're in that place, you don't think about your kids. You just are so miserable that you want to just let it, end. And that's where I was at. So I just sat in the car and baked. And then I started getting very hot, sweating profusely, getting very dizzy, and felt like I was going to black out. And then I, I chickened out, and I just started crying. And I said, God, something's got to give, you got to do something. And so I left, went home, and my husband happened to be out in the yard, and he was in the hammock swinging, enjoying the shade. And I climbed in the hammock with him and tried to tell him, how I was feeling. And he just wasn't getting it. And so anyway, we talked, and it just didn't do any good. And then about a month later, I just kept hearing the Lord say, you've got to leave for a while. You need to let me minister to you. And I didn't want to. Mm-hmm. And I had friends confirm it. You got to do this. And so that started another journey. But out of that, all of that heartache, being separated for over 3 months, God worked on both of us. And, he started the healing process in both of us. And we learned that our communication wasn't so hot.
Yeah, I think that actually applies to most marriages, unless you learn to get past yourself. Jeannie's on Facebook, and you guys, thanks for joining on Facebook. Share the launch author reveal. We're actually doing Cynthia Brewer's backstory, and she's talking about her first release, The Jewels in My Crown, which is an amazing story. And I see Bill's watching. Hey, Bill, thanks for signing in. I see Melissa Sheehan, the one and only, is watching as well. So glad to have you on watching. If you guys want to be in for a copy of this book that Cynthia's given away, please leave your name and email in the comments or message my page. That way we'll put you in, because she's given away a few books. So Jeannie says, it's wonderful to go through so much and come out such a helper to others. And I think that's an understatement. And, I look at it, it's because you said just a few minutes ago that you had your biggest meltdown at church. And yes. I'm looking at, I read what you said in the book about what had happened and about how you had tried to take your own life. Uh-huh. And just knowing that, you consider that now a jewel in your crown. Yes. And just so you know, Cynthia has taken the book that she has written, The Jewels in My Crown, and there's an allegory in there talking about a woman named April and how she's chosen to be the bride of Christ and goes through the process of learning who her identity is. And it's so precious how she shared this, because she's given it to us in a way that we can take in the things that we walk through and how it can be turned into something wonderful. We shared, her abuse background, that, we also talked about, she tried to take her own life, and there was a separation with her husband. But you're giving us the strength side of that. And that's what I love about this, Cynthia, is that you're taking what could have taken you out, and you've turned it into literally like a jewel. I don't know if you all can see this, but I have a little bag of jewels that Cynthia gave me to represent the different chapters in here. So I just want to commend you for the pressing through, because some people get lost in the journey and then they don't make it through to the other side. Because what I love is that you made it to, and you've made it through, and you're sharing the way out with others, that if you're stuck, that you know the way and can help people get through. I love that about you.
Definitely. And the God in the Word points the way. Whenever you're going through stuff, that's where you want to go first, to God, and then the Word. See what the Word says and let that be your guide, because not everybody will have the right answer for you, and that's where you got to trust in God and let Him do the work in you. And that's what I did, totally trusted Him.
Right. And one of the things that you mentioned too is that you came home and you just tried to take your life, and you're laying in the hammock and Carl's resting as if nothing happened, because he didn't know, he didn't know. And then you tried to tell him what happened, and you literally had to take a strategic pause from your own life.
Yes.
Talk to me how you came to the realization to know that it was okay to kind of walk out and get yourself together and then come back, talk people through that emotional experience.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't recommend if you've got trouble in your marriage, obviously doing that. But I really felt I could just, God telling me that I needed to get away and just breathe again and to seek him for everything that was worth it. And I was so reluctant to do that, when you have a family, and my youngest at the time was, probably 4, maybe.
Hmm.
And so that was difficult, kids need your mama. But I did it, and it took every ounce of energy, every ounce of strength for me to do that. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. But yet I knew that I had to survive, because I didn't want to see myself go back to that place again where I tried to kill myself. I knew that I just needed to get away and rest in God's arms and let him work it out. And that's what I did. And of course, God, he'll always, when he works on one end, he's always working on the other end.
Hmm.
And that was my prayer, that he would work on my husband, which he did. And it was wonderful how God worked it all out. And because every day I trusted in him, and I kept a journal through the whole thing. I call it my book of whines. Like I was very whining to God and hurting so bad, but through it all, he just kept speaking to me and just making me realize that he had better things for me than what I was going through. And I had to come out. It was like I was in the fiery furnace, and I came out the other side with not smelling like smoke.
Yeah.
He repaired our marriage. I had to realize that it was God that needed to be in our marriage. And even though we went to church, we weren't praying together. It was like, you're doing your thing and I'm doing my thing. And it needed to be both our things along with God. That threefold strand needed to be in our marriage. And that was a big lesson to learn too.
Yeah. And, I look at it as I've had my own counseling journey. And when the Lord was doing his work on me, as far as to undo and to repair how I saw myself, and, work through things that I had lived through and had forgotten about, that whole mess. It's actually in my first book, The Battle of Surrender. That's my book of wines. So I was with no cheese. There's no cheese with my wine.
Right.
But I look at it as that's precious to the Lord, your book of wines. Because you're working yourself through. It's not like you're actually whining about this. You're literally like pouring your heart out. And some things just need to be worked through. I think it's one of the things that as human beings, we tend to stuff things down, think that if we just don't talk about it, if we just don't meditate on it. And I think Christians are really bad about this, is that they don't resolve things. And that's how offense actually gets stuffed way down there. It's also something where it blocks the communication and, all the stuff that's happening. So, there's maturity in what you did, because you have a 4-year-old and young kids, and there's 3 of them. But what type of mom would you have been if you stayed? You said you were basically a zombie, the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So I commend you on taking that therapeutic pause and having that separation where you could go and you can rest. Because I think that we also live in a society where you have to just keep going, and you're commended. No, I worked at a place, and this was just insanity to me. They wanted you to show up sick, and I thought that was complete idiocracy. But anyway, it was something that baffled me, that they commended that type of mentality, and that's how I ended up catching the swine flu, because they rewarded someone coming to work sick. So the fact that you had the wisdom to take that pause and say, I've had enough, I can't go any further, I need to exit my life for a little bit in a godly way. I just want to give you a hand clap for that, because I think that you're showing people that it's okay, that no matter what's going on, that this is the best solution for you to rest and actually get, restored.
And that's definitely what I needed. I needed for him to start working on the inside of me. So, and like I said, that's not for everybody, to do that. You got to make sure that God tells you to do that, walk out. I just want to reiterate that. Don't want, somebody walking out of a marriage that, maybe that's not what God's called you to do right at that moment. So it was definitely a God pulling, a God saying, get out of Dodge for a bit,
Yeah.
so I can minister to you. So.
Well, for my married folk that are watching this today, I think there's times when we have been in relationship for a while that there's a point of a never-ending argument, and sometimes you just make things worse by staying in the environment. And I'm not advocating separation or divorce or anything like that. I'm just saying that there's sometimes you have to take a strategic pause just to go
Yes.
back and spend time with the Lord and have, people minister to you so you can come back a healthier person.
Yes.
So Kim is watching on Facebook. And again, if you're watching via Facebook Live, thank you for joining. One, this is the Launch Author Reveal. And this is author Cynthia Brewer. And we're talking about her book, The Jewels in My Crown. She's giving away free copies, so leave your name and email in the comments. If not comfortable with that, go ahead and message my page, and that way you'll be put in for the drawing for the books. So we have Kim on here as well as James. And then Kim says, so true, Christians do sweep things under the rug and claim that they are fine. Yeah. And you know what, though, Kim, I can honestly say that I've been one of those people, because you don't feel very Christian-like if you get offended. Right. You don't feel very Christian-like if you get angry or want to smack someone silly. There's a lot of things that you don't work through the emotions. And I'm a life coach, if you guys don't know that. My other thing other than authoring and hosting is that I am a success coach and life coach. I do an integrated approach, and I help people work through those emotions. We tend to get frozen in those areas because we're not allowed to emote, and we're seeing, that those things are bad. But, one of the things that, beautiful story, by the way, Susan mentioned on Facebook that this is a beautiful story, and she's talking about yours. The Lord shared with me the other day, Cynthia, and I know that you'll get this, that emotions are like, when you're cooking, they're like a spice. They're meant to add flavor. They're not meant to be the main ingredient. Mm-hmm. So it's all about balance. And it sounds to me that you have finally found that balance and that place of healing in your journey. I mean, you've overcome the background with, that I mentioned before, in order to teach people about, finding how to put the jewels in their crown.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's so important, to get through these areas that keep us stuck. And I would encourage everybody to really, take a look at yourself and see what areas you're kind of stuck in, and then ask God to help you work through that, because we can't live our purpose if we've got a shackle around our ankle or one hand tied behind our back. We've got to get out there and do what God's called us to do. This is the end times, and I think now more than ever, he's calling his saints, his bride, to get up, get yourself ready. It's time to get busy and get out there and do for me. So I encourage everybody to really look at yourself and see what areas that you're being held back in, because the more that we're matured and grown up, the more that we can do for God.
Right, exactly. So if you guys have questions for Cynthia, we're going to, this is live Q&A, so you have access to her. I'll moderate. So if you have any questions for her, if you're on webinar, please put them into the chat so I can actually present those questions to her. If you're on via live, post those in the comments and I'll ask her the questions as well. And again, share this on Facebook so everyone can enjoy the backstory that she's sharing, because it is precious. It's not just the richness of the words that she's sharing. It's literally her life that has been poured out, and it's precious. So I want to talk about the book and how you separated it. We know that if you are a Christian and you're a believer, that we get crowns in heaven, right? So, and there's different types of crowns, but Cynthia's taken the, I don't want to say the liberty, because I don't consider this a liberty. It's like the application to pursue the types of jewels. And each jewel that she has in her book represents something significant that she's lived through. Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about the diamond real quickly. What's the diamond mean to you?
Mm-hmm. I love the diamond because, a diamond in its raw form, it's all cloudy and just looks like almost a chunk of crystal that's cheap. But once it gets in the hands of the diamond cutter and the reflection starts to come through, and that's what God does with us. He's the diamond cutter. He takes us in that raw form and begins to cut away those things in us that don't belong, that would cause the diamond not to be clear and transparent and reflect the light. And we're reflectors of the light. We're reflectors of Jesus. And that's the only way that we can be as a perfect polished diamond. We got to be polished up and ready to go and be set in his ring, or in our crowns. But, the diamond means a lot to me because that's my desire, to be a reflector of light, reflector of him in all that I do.
That's fantastic. I love that. That it's a process.
It is.
And the great thing about, the diamond representation is that no matter what it looks like on the outside, is that there's still something very precious on the inside. Mm-hmm. Yes. And the great thing about this book is that it helps you to become established in your identity in who you are and how the Lord has made you. So Susan had asked, how long did it take to write your book? And I thank you, Nancy, for answering Susan's question. So Nancy gets the Good Student Award, 5 years. Susan came in a little bit late, so she didn't hear you actually say that. So thanks for answering that question. So yeah, it's a 5-year journey, but it's a lifetime to actually live out, to write, because she writes in each chapter different life applications as far as, what the stones mean. So there's everything from the diamond. There's the amber stone, which is powerful because
yes.
This, if I may, spoke volumes to me. And I know this was one that you said, make sure that you read this chapter. So I told Cynthia, I said, I promise you I will read your book before the reveal. And I do that for all the authors coming on. I make sure that, I dig through your books because I want to make sure that you all on the other side of this are getting a great conversation. So I'm not getting just the backstory. I want to dig in. I want to get to the heart of the author. So y'all share this on Facebook and let people know that this is out there and that you can take part in this as well. But you can ask her questions too to get to her heart. But this little jewel, which is the representation of the amber stone, is made out of resin. Mm-hmm. And what I found intriguing by this in your book is that what makes it more valuable to man is to have the things trapped in there, that it's literally, things that are like lodged in, whether it's any type of debris or bug or whatever, that makes it more valuable to man. But you saw it as more valuable being clear.
Yes, because those hurts, everything, we carry all that stuff, all that junk through our lives. And, God wants us to be rid of that junk, that, those stinging words from people, the hurts, the shame, the guilt, all that stuff, that's those bugs that are in the amber. And God wants that stuff out. For him, he sees it clear amber is more beautiful than the junk that's in it. And so as you read that chapter on amber, you'll see the great significance of that.
Right. And I think that's very apropos as far as how we live our lives. It's something that what man values is not what the Lord values. It's like the inverted system. So if y'all have questions for Cynthia, by all means, post those into the chat. If you're watching via webinar, if you're on Facebook, put your information in, your questions on the comments. And I am literally watching both. So I will ask them to Cynthia. And Susan says that she loves the jewels representing your journey of diamonds. And the thing that's great about that, Susan, is not just diamonds. She has like a whole, there's a lovely array of jewels here. I'm looking at, there's diamonds, there's ambers, there's sapphires, there's tsavorite, rubies, morganite, and the pearl. What am I missing? I'm missing one. Am I missing one?
Amethyst.
Amethyst, yes. The amethyst. That one was actually a very powerful chapter too, because it talks about your trials that you live through. And what Cynthia has done is that she's taken this book of her journey, and she's taken the allegory of April, who's the main character, the protagonist, and literally has put her life in of worthiness, and then her own application of her story and things that she's had to live through and what that meant to her as far as what stone. So I just love how your creative mind worked to like weave that all together. So let's talk about this journey in Africa. And oh my goodness, the Savarite. I'd never heard of this stone before, and I guess I need to expand my horizons, because the Savarite is similar to an emerald, but it's greener, right?
Yes, it's a beautiful stone. My daughter has one, and yeah, it's gorgeous. It really, really is. And I decided to do the Savarite over that because of the story that's behind the Savarite stone that I tell in there. I want to read.
Don't give it all away, but I have to say it has to do with carnage, lions, and it's in Africa.
Yes.
It's like, don't be a spoiler of your own book. I think that, the Savarite was an interesting read because of how it actually was portrayed. You have a question from Nancy. Do you have a favorite jewel out of all the ones that you've written about?
Well, lately, I have to say the pearl has been my favorite. I've got a pearl that I keep in my pocket every day, and it just reminds me that I'm the pearl of great price that Jesus paid his life for, and he's also my pearl of great price because I love him so, and he's beyond worth, and so are we to him. But I think my favorite scripture right now too is Matthew 13:46, where it says God's kingdom is like a jewel merchant on the hunt for excellent pearls, and when he finds one that's flawless, he immediately goes out and sells everything to buy it. And so that's, I see that and I think how precious that I am in his sight and all that he's done for me. So here's my pearl that was that's in my pocket, and I carry this around all the time.
And of course you notice that the good Californian Southern woman is wearing her pearl necklace as well.
Yes, I got my pearl necklace, pearl earrings.
Yes, there you go. Susan asked, first of all, she said she's looking forward to reading your book and wants to know if it's if you have it in ebook.
Yes, it is on Amazon.
Okay.
Ebook.
Yeah. I'm actually going to share a link in just a moment, y'all, so you can actually see where to get her book, and I'll tell you how to get to it. But also, if you want to be put in for the drawing, just leave your information. If you're on webinar, you're automatically going to be put in for the drawing, so you don't need to put your email in there. One, because we already have it, because you signed up for the webinar. But if you're on Facebook and want to be included, you need to actually leave your information on there so we know how to get to you. So let me go back here and see if there's anything on the Facebook, see if there's any questions that I missed here. Again, this is the Launch Author Reveal with Cynthia Brewer. If you're on Facebook, and I just want to make sure that y'all know what you're watching here. And we're getting her backstory on her book, The Jewels in My Crown. And she's just, I love you, Cynthia. You're delightful. I just enjoy not just talking to you, but also learning from you. Larry actually says, that was an awesome way to describe yourself, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm looking at, there are some things on this journey that the Lord has delivered her from and delivering her to. And deliverance isn't always something where, there's a taking away. There's actually a delivering to, like a package, like a present. And Cynthia is truly a gift, and she's delivering to you the best in this book. And what I have been shown in the last couple of days, and I've been just waiting to share this with you because of, of our conversations and knowing what I read in your book, the importance of being established. It's a difference between a Saul and a David. For those of you that are Bible people, you'll know that Saul was the first king of Israel, and then David was the appointed king to take his place. That, Saul was chosen Saul was, the first one that the Lord picked. He was the first iteration, but he did not stand up in his identity. And it's so important to know who you are. And I was reading the other day that to be established, it means to stand erect, which
Yeah.
I was blown away by that definition of it, because it's a posturing. And truly, your book helps people to posture in their identity. And I wanted to share that with you. I wanted to bless you with that, Cynthia, because that's what you're helping people to do by reading this book. That you're teaching us how to be royalty. It's one thing to see yourself, as April does in the book, as someone who's unworthy. It's a whole nother thing to see yourself as the bride of Christ, man and woman alike. So I just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome. I mean, it just doesn't matter what kind of background you've had, what you've done. God can scrub you up and just turn you into royalty. And it's just trusting in him and getting to know what your identity is and what you're called to do. And,
Right.
Right.
Shout out to Frank. I see Frank said that Frank's been trying to watch this, one of the reveals for the last few days, and work's been getting in the way. So blessings on your work, Frank, but glad you made it. So glad that you're actually in. So this is Cynthia Brewer. She's actually talking about the Jewels in My Crown, which is an amazing book. And people are going to get a chance to win a copy of that. She's giving away a few copies, actually. So I want to go ahead, Cynthia, and just take a second and share my screen so people can see where to get your books. So give me 1 second here. So if you guys are looking to get a copy of her book, she's giving away books for free today. This is the link of where you can actually get it. It's https://amzn.to/2BHRNLE. And it's available on Amazon via ebook and print.
Yes.
And then, of course, again, put your name in an email so you can be put in for the drawing, and you might get blessed with a print version that she's handing out. So Melissa actually says that there's such beauty and transparency. Thank you for sharing with us that she loves the perspective that you have given. So, this book, so you all know, I want to actually say the link again, that I want to make sure that you know that this is where you can actually get the book if you're listening in later on via podcast. So it's https://amzn.to/2BHRNLE. Okay. And yes, Frank, I will drop the link in the comments after we wrap up here. So we'll definitely put that in there for you all. So let me go ahead and stop the share here, and so you can see our wonderful author again. So do we have any more questions? Susan says such a beautiful cover. So yeah, I thought the cover was stunning. So you want to tell the story about how you found the cover?
Oh, yes, that was totally a God thing. I had seen that picture actually on Facebook that somebody had shared, and it was several months before I started thinking about the cover. In my head, I had a whole different cover in my head for the book, but then the Lord brought to remembrance that picture. And so I called up my daughter and I said, hey, do you know anything about, because she had worked for a place that did publication, and I said, is anything on the Facebook free? And I don't, there's no royalties or whatever. And she said, I don't know. And well, anyway, I had her search, see if she could find that same picture. She found it, and it turned out it was an artist named Chudy Bryant, who's a fantastic artist. And she had painted the picture. It's called The Righteous Bride. And I just fell in love with it. And I said, that's what I need on my book. So nervously, I contacted her and asked her if she would let me use her painting for my book cover. And she said yes. And then I thought, okay, well, okay, how much? And she said, no, I want you to use it for free, but your one catch is I get a copy of your book. So it worked out beautifully. I thank you, Chudy, for doing that. That's been a blessing, because that picture is truly what the book is about. And so it was a God thing.
Yeah, and it represents you because you're beautiful. And I just know that when you guys read this book, it will bless you in so many different ways. And the most importantly, it will help you to work through if you're stuck in any of those areas to know how you can transform whatever it is that you're walking through into something that can be used for good and turn into a jewel for your crown as well. So as we are getting close to the top of the hour, I just want to say thank you to everyone that has joined the webinar today and on Facebook Live. You know, I appreciate you guys coming in to watch this. Tell people about the Launch Author Reveal. This is where we're truly, you know, wanting to bless people with the joy of reading, get you into amazing material, and let you get into the heart of the author and fall in love with them as well. So, you know, you can actually share this on Facebook. Tell people about the Launch Author Reveal. It's every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can watch via webinar. You can watch live stream on Facebook. It's whatever is easiest for you. The most important thing is that you watch and that you tell. And, you know, every life is a beautiful story. It's really important that you let your be revealed and you let your light shine. It's so important that you do that. And if you're an author and if you are wanting to come on to become a launch author and have your story revealed as well, all you have to do is go to launchauthorreveal.com and just let me know how I can help you and just tell the word. So Susan, one last thing before we sign off here. Susan says, are you reaching out to women that have gone through similar as a life coach?
I have on occasion spoke to other women, you know, one-on-one, and you know, God just leads me to people that need a word or that I can talk about my book and what I've gone through. So it gives people hope, you know, that just because you're in that bad situation or you're feeling like, you know, nothing can help you, you know, God's there. God can walk you through it and get you to the other side.
She coaches and she doesn't realize it, Susan. It's like she literally does that and just, you know, she just walks around. She's like a fragrance, she is perfuming. We talked about this past Sunday. Yeah. So as we wrap up here, I wanted to, for those of all you that know, I am a success coach. I'm also a business trainer. And I'm a life coach as well. And I tend to give homework. So if you have trained with me, you know that. And as I do business coaching as well, you know that I give homework. So this is homework for you all. Cynthia and I talked about this and we laughed because we both have little ones that told us who we are, even though we may not have felt it at the time. So like her little one gave her a crown and made her wear it throughout the house. My little one, Cara Sophia, bought me a crown. And I can't ever get the camera right. So this was my Christmas present last year.
Aww.
From Cara Sophia when she was not quite 4. So I told Cynthia that I would wear my crown from my daughter to remind myself who I am, that I am the bride of Christ, that I am royalty. And here's your homework. On to the Launch Author Reveal. If you're watching this either live or via replay, I want you to go get one of these things. I don't care if you're a guy. I don't care if you're a girl. You have to have a crown and make sure that you wear it in public. You know, what's the point of having it if you want to be a closet, you know, crown wearer? You need to come out and you need to sport the jewels that you've been given. So I want y'all to do that. That is your official homework. Michelle Chudy Enterprises, success coach, marketing mentor, business coach, whatever you want to say it, a word from the Lord. Go get your crown and wear it, and go get a copy of Cynthia's book. Put your name in if you want to be put in for the drawing. Get a copy of this. You're going to be blessed by it. So reveal yours. Let it shine. Y'all are amazing. I'll see you next week. We're going to take a break for Thanksgiving. You guys have a marvelous Thanksgiving. Enjoy your friends and your family. Just, you know, take time to write down 40 things. I'm going to take some from Dr. Chad. 40 things that you're grateful for. I did mine this morning. It was really easy once you get past those few to just let it flow. And just remember, it's Thanksgiving that prepares the way for the gift. So Bless you, and I will see you on Tuesday of next week at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will have the one and only Dareth Textera on. I got out of order last time, but Dareth is on Tuesday talking about crushing your cravings. How appropriate that is not before Thanksgiving, it's after. So I will catch you next week. Cynthia, thank you again for coming on. Thank you all for signing in and watching. And go get your crowns. All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Launch Author Reveal with Michelle Chudy. Write a book? Get launched. Head over to launchauthorreveal.com. Every life is a beautiful story. Reveal yours and let it shine.
You could be larger than life.